Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a potentially cold and snowy pattern for the upcoming week, and we're even going to look out all the way until mid-November and look at what the pattern could be all the way up until, again, mid-November. And we're going to look a little bit farther out. We're going to look at how cold those temperatures could be, and we're also going to look at, again, where you could be seeing snowfall over the next 45 or so days, all the way until mid-November. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. We have some frost and freeze warnings in effect. We have frost advisories for parts of Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, and even some freeze warnings up for Michigan. And then we see those frost advisories extended into parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and South Dakota, as well as parts of Nebraska and Kansas. Red flag warnings in effect for parts of Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, as well as Montana, and a little bit of California there. We also have some air quality alerts in effect for parts of Wyoming and Colorado, as well as parts of California. And then we see some flood watches in effect for the east coast of Florida. Other than that, there's not a lot going on in terms of watches and warnings. And let's start getting right into the temperature forecast. Now, here is how cold or warm compared to normal it is going to be. And this is your 2 meter temperature anomalies from the European ensemble model. And basically, this is showing you, again, how cold it is going to be compared to normal, or how warm it is going to be compared to normal. The oranges, the yellows, the reds, indicating that you have warmer than normal conditions, while the blues, the greens, the purples, indicating that you have colder than normal temperatures. Now, we see some of those purples and greens pop up for parts of the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley and all the way through the Mississippi River Valley. And we're seeing those very cold temperatures kind of centered around Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky there. We also see a lingering cold front over parts of the East Coast. That cold front has already moved past, but we do see some lingering cold air from that cold front. And then we see some warm air to the west, and we also see some warm air also to the north and west. Now, let's play this through. We're going to look at what that actually means in terms of temperatures right now. So this would be by tomorrow, October 5th in the morning time. Here's your low temperatures, and we're looking at low temperatures, especially over the Great Lakes, in the 30s, so potentially some frost and freezes. As well, we could see some frost and freezes for parts of interior Maine and New Hampshire. Now, let's continue this forward a little bit more. Here would be by October 6th, Tuesday, and we're looking at the lingering cold front kind of moved by. We're not seeing too many of the effects from that anymore, but we are seeing this big upper level low that's dipped down into the eastern United States. We also see more cold air developing over parts of Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, up in Canada, and that'll be dipping further to the south. We are starting to see some of this ridging appear in southern Canada, and that will be trying to keep all that cold air locked up to the north, and all that cold air that's over parts of the United States kind of locked up right there. And it's trying to kind of calm down the pattern, although it's not going to be able to do that because this cold air will penetrate that and actually move into the eastern United States. Now, here would be what your low temperatures look like, and we're looking at lows that are going to be near the mid 40s for parts of the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, through the interior Northeast, and even for parts of the upper Midwest. Of course, for the Rockies, you guys will also be in the 30s, especially in the higher terrain. Here would be for October 7th, and this would be for Wednesday, and we're starting to see that cold air dip a little bit further to the south, but we're also looking at that cold air lingering for parts of the southeast. Now, you might actually have a brief warm up as you get to Wednesday, but then as we get into Thursday, it will definitely cool down. Here's what your low temperatures will look like on that day. Look at the low temperatures up in parts of central Canada. You're going to have low temperatures down in the 20s and even some of the low 20s, and that'll be actually dipping down into the eastern United States. Of course, it's not going to be in the low 20s in the eastern US. It's going to be a little bit warmer, but still, you're going to see that same Arctic air mass move down. Now, let's play this through a little bit more. This will be about October 8th, and we're looking at this big trough dipping down quickly into the eastern United States. It'll eventually move out, but you're also seeing a lot of ridging that's moving out throughout parts of the western United States. And once this upper level low dips down into the US, you're going to start to see ridging build up through this portion of Canada, and that is going to not allow any more cold air to penetrate through there, and you're going to end up being in a more mild pattern past about about I would say probably the 11th, you'll start getting into a bit of a milder pattern. Now, here would be the low temperatures for that day, and for the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, you're looking at some cooler temperatures with lows down into the upper 30s. Now, here would be by October 9th, and you're really starting to see the effects of this cold air into parts of the northeastern quarter of the United States. Here's what your trough looks like by this point. It's digging into the eastern United States, but actually look at this. Look in the plains. You're looking at some fairly warm temperatures, where temperatures could be near 10 degrees above normal. This is all in Celsius, so multiply this by about 2, and that's your actual temperatures, or how far above or below normal they will be, and you're looking at temperatures that might be closer to 15 or 20 degrees above normal over the plains. So this cold air is definitely moving to the east, and so is the warm air, and that'll eventually overtake the pattern. Now, here would be your low temperatures on Friday, October 9th, and we're looking at much of the upper Great Lakes, especially the eastern Great Lakes, and all the way through the Ohio Valley and much of the Northeast, not even just the interior Northeast by this point, looking at some 30s and maybe even some mid to lower 30s and even some 20s into the mountainous terrain of the interior Northeast. Now, here would be by October 10th. We're looking at that cold air kind of moving out by this point. We're seeing much of the rest of the country in some warmer temperatures, but we're still seeing those cooler temperatures for parts of the eastern United States, especially the East Coast. And then here's what your low temperatures would look like on Saturday, the 10th of October. We're looking at temperatures still widespread in the 30s and even some lower 40s, and potentially some upper 20s for parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine if it does get a little bit cooler than what's forecasted. Now, here is the CFS model, and this is the climate forecasting system, and we're going to play this through 10-day increments, and we're going to look at what it's showing in terms of your longer term temperature anomalies. And I really don't think that this model will be too accurate, and I'll explain why I don't think that. Now, we do see for the 0 to 10 day period from the 4th of October to the 14th of October some cool air over parts of central and northern Canada, but for much of the United States we're looking at those warmer than normal temperatures. Now, here is for the 14th to the 24th, and this is why I don't think this is going to be too accurate. Now, we're looking at a lot of troughing over the western United States, all throughout parts of the western U.S. and western Canada and Alaska. We're looking at some cooler than normal temperatures, or at least slightly cooler. But for much of the eastern half of the continent, we're looking at some very warm temperatures, and let me explain why I don't think that's likely. If you have warm temperatures up in the Arctic Circle, usually what that means is that cold air is now displaced. Usually your cold air, it has to be somewhere. You can't just have all above normal temperatures. So if you have cold air in the Arctic, you're most likely going to see warm air over parts of the eastern United States, or even much of the country for when you have cold air up in parts of the Arctic. But we don't see any cold air throughout that region. We see cold air scattered throughout parts of the western U.S., western Canada, western Alaska, and that's just not very likely. If you have warm temperatures up here, all that cold air is going to usually be evenly dispersed in a kind of a ring around the Arctic Circle. So usually that area that I just highlighted would be in cooler than normal temperatures or conditions, and that is not what this model is showing. We also have to take this with a grain of salt because the CFS does tend to be a little bit warm biased, which means that it does prefer to show warmer temperatures throughout the longer range. So we do have to take this with a grain of salt, but I'm not putting too much hope into what the CFS is showing. I do think, especially as you get into later October, we'll go back into a cooler pattern, or at least periods of cooler weather. Now, here would be from the 24th of October to the 3rd of November, and you do start to see a little bit of a pattern switch. We do start to see that warm air switch a little bit further to the west, but again, you would expect cold air to kind of dip down somewhat like this if you have high pressure and ridging over parts of the western United States, but you just don't see that on this model, which is just confusing me. It's a little bit, it doesn't really make sense what this model is showing. So the longer term models, I know they are are showing a warmer pattern, but it doesn't look too likely based on what I'm seeing. Now, here is the 6 to 10 day outlook, and this is from the 9th of October to the 13th of October, and we're looking at your temperatures looking like they're going to be very above normal, especially through the central part of the country. And then if we move this forward to the 8 to 14 day outlook, we are starting to see a little bit of below average temperatures, especially for parts of Idaho there and the areas surrounding it. But for much of the rest of the country, we're looking at those warmer temperatures, and that expands for much of the southwest and pretty much anywhere east of the Rockies. I would say probably is in the warmer temperatures for the 11th to the 17th, that time period. So let's also look at just some longer term, on the longer term, what it's looking at in terms of snowfall. And this is the European Ensemble Model 45-day averaged out outlook, and we're looking at a combination of about 51 models, and it's averaging them out and showing you what it's showing. And so if you are, most likely, I would say if you have that area, if you're living within an area that is 2 inches or more of snowfall, you have a decent shot of seeing snowfall before November 15th. And you do see that for parts of the interior northeast, and we also see that for parts of the upper Great Lakes and for much of the western United States, especially the Rockies and the higher elevations, and also for parts of the Midwest. We do see some of those 2 inch plus areas. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what the model shows right now. When the newest model run comes out, we'll see what this shows. But this is definitely very long. This is a very long-term outlook. But we are looking at some snowpack also building into parts of Canada, and that's something that for the winter time would be very interesting to see. If this does pan out, we have a lot of snowfall being forecasted for southern and central Canada, and especially northern Canada. You guys are looking at a lot of snowfall. So if that does pan out, that usually cools down all the temperatures, and so when you do see Arctic blasts, they usually have more potency to them. So that'll be definitely something that I'm looking at in terms of the winter. My winter forecast will be coming out on the 10th, so make sure you don't miss that. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.